So, I was watching Record of Ragnarok the other day, and I got to thinking, it's a good thing they didn't put any Islamic figures in there. A, because we would have been outraged, and B, the whole show would have been over in like 5 minutes. And to prove that, let's talk about one of the greatest warriors to ever live, although I'm sure you know him well. Makkah, the year 600. Fatima bint Asad gives birth inside of the holy house. The child is born strong and healthy. She thinks to name it in honor of her father. However, her husband disagrees. To solve the dispute, they go to the most trusted man in Makkah, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He looks at the boy, and the boy for the first time opens his eyes, the first sight of his being the Prophet himself. And so the Prophet names him Ali ibn Abi Talib.
أنا الذي سمتني أمي حيدرة ضرغام آجام وليث قسوة كليث غابات كريه المنظرة أضرب بالسيف رقاب الكفرة من يترك الحق يقوم صغره أقتل منهم 7 أو 10 فكلهم أهل فسوق فجرة.
Okay, to start off, do I need to explain that Ali radiallahu anhu's bloodline is goated? First of all, it's the same bloodline as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, but let's give a brief overview. His grandfather is Abdul Muttalib, the legendary Arab. If you went back in time and asked anyone of that time period, do you know Abdul Muttalib? They would say, ما هي اللغة التي يتكلمها هذا الغبي? But if you said it in Arabic, they would probably say Abdul Muttalib, of course. See, Abdul Muttalib was just famous all across Arabia for a couple things, nothing too big. Number one, he rediscovered the well of Zamzam. A little tiny thing. And number two, when the Yemeni military king, Abraha, came to destroy the Kaaba, Abdul Muttalib, alone, walked into his tent and said, "Hey yo, give me back my camels." What? Yeah, well, on your way here, while you were conquering places, you took my camels. To which Abraha was like, I'm talking about destroying the Kaaba and you're talking about camels? So of course Abdul Muttalib just had to slap back with, I am the owner of those camels, so I have to look after them. Allah is the master of the house, and he will look after it. Yeah, Abraha shut up real quick and gave the camels right back. And then he promptly got killed by birds. Then we have Abdul Muttalib's father, Hashim, and he's the man who initiated Rihlat al-Shita'i was-Sayf. Or in other words, their practice of trading in Yemen in the winter and Syria in the summer. It was this process that made Makkah so rich in the first place. And then we have his grandfather, Qusay ibn Kilab, and he is one of my favorite members of this lineage, because his entire story is that he took over Makkah with indomitable, how do I say that? Unbelievable riz. So at this point, the children of Kinana were not in power. A tribe known as Bani Khuza' had taken over Makkah. And Qusay didn't like that one bit. So he thought, what's the best way I can get in? And so he just married the daughter of the chief. Now at this point, his plan was, have as many children as I flippin' can, and just show that I'm better than his sons. And by the end of the chief's life, he was like, man, my sons are useless. I might as well give it to my son-in-law. Now the moment power was given to him, he was like, all you man, you don't live here anymore. And so he just brought all of his family in. And that is how we have Quraysh. It's named after him. But anyway, enough of lineage. So Ali radiallahu anh was either number 3 or number 4 to accept Islam. Don't start an argument about that in the comments. I'm begging you. But anyway, he accepted Islam when he was about 11 years old or so. He saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Khadija radiallahu anha praying in their house, and he was like, what's this? And when the Prophet explained it, he was like, yeah, checks out, makes sense. I guess I'm Muslim now. Wait, let me ask my dad first. So he went and asked Abu Talib, and Abu Talib loved the Prophet even though he didn't embrace Islam. Again, don't start an argument about that. And Abu Talib told him, stick to Muhammad, for what he says is true. And stick to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ali radiallahu anh did. So, before we get to his military exploits, let's just talk about him generally being a Chad. During the night of the Hijrah, the Prophet ﷺ had to leave Mecca while the Quraysh were plotting to murder him. And so they devised a plan to put somebody in the Prophet's bed, risking their life, so the Prophet could get away undetected. And so who better for the job than Ali radiallahu anh? And while the Prophet ﷺ was helped by Allah and made his way to Medina, Ali radiallahu anh slept in his bed while assassins from the Quraysh prepared to stab him. Luckily, they pulled the blanket off and realized, yo, this ain't him. And so, pissed off, they started beating on Ali radiallahu anh, shaking him and demanding to know, where is Muhammad? To which he said, how am I meant to know? I was asleep.
Don't care, still don't care, I don't care.
Yeah, Ali radiallahu anh later would say, best night of sleep he ever had. He then promptly continued to make the hijrah himself, and I mean by himself. He walked the entire journey from Mecca to Medina, which takes about 8 hours by car, and I'd know because I made that journey last year. And he walked it barefoot half the way because his sandals broke. He walked 40 miles a day. God damn. Okay, fast forward a little bit and you get to the Battle of Badr, and this is where you start to see Ali, the warrior, really develop. So, before battles, they used to do something called a mubaraza, a duel. And Utbah ibn Rabi'ah gets up and says, send us your best. And so the Prophet sends some of the Ansar first of all. And Utbah's like, who are these bozos? We don't want none of them. Send us our equals. Send us people of the Quraysh. He will regret saying that. So the Prophet says, Hamza, Ali, and Ubaidah, 3 prime Qurayshis. Hamza and Ali, you already know this is not going to go well for Utbah. And I'm just going to cut it short. Utbah, his sons, and his cousins, dead. Dead and gone. Finito. It was a complete massacre. Like Sukuna in the Shibuya incident. No spoilers. Okay, slight intermission before we get to the Battle of Uhud. I need to point out 2 things. First of all, the images that we see of Ali radiallahu anh, yeah, complete nonsense. Usually peddled by the other group. In reality, Ali radiallahu anh was not built like a supermodel from Boohoo. He was built like a warrior. Ibn Abdul Barr says Ali radiallahu anh was stocky, average height, a little bit on the short side, bold, thick beard. His arms were so thick you could barely tell the difference between his forearm and his bicep. He had a little bit of a gut, and he had so much strength that if he held you with intent, you felt like you'd die. Think of the Mountain from Game of Thrones. Intermission number 2, before we get to the Battle of Uhud. Ali radiallahu anh also at this point marries Fatima radiallahu anha, and it's just a very cute wedding. Ali radiallahu anh hears that people are proposing to Fatima, and one of his servants says, why don't you go and propose? You're literally the best match for her. And he, in his modesty, is like, dude, I have no money. I am so broke. I can't even give her a mahar. And the servant, probably knowing that the Prophet was waiting for Ali to come, was like, dude, just go. So Ali radiallahu anh goes. This warrior that could take down people twice his size knocks on the door of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the moment he opens the doors, he loses all confidence. He just sits there with the Prophet for like 10 minutes not saying a word. And the Prophet asks him, Ali, what did you come here for? And he's like, I just wanted to see you. I just wanted to see you.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
And of course, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, knowing what's going on, was like, oh, you're here to marry Fatima, aren't you? Yeah. So the Prophet asks him, what do you have for mahar? At this point, I presume Ali radiallahu anh was sweating profusely. To which the Prophet reminded him, oh, wasn't there that armor that I rewarded you for the Battle of Badr? So he goes out, takes the armor, and sells it for about 300 dirhams. And he sells it to Uthman radiallahu anh. And Uthman radiallahu anh, loving Ali, said, here is the money for the armor, and here is the armor back as a wedding gift. And so they have a very small intimate wedding for Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet, and Ali radiallahu anhu. Anyway, back to the action. The Battle of Uhud. This is where Ali radiallahu anhu really shows his power. There is only a single duel before the battle, and it's between Ali radiallahu anhu and a man named Talha ibn Uthman. Talha is a complete dickhead, and he begins insulting the Prophet and the companions, to which Ali radiallahu anhu immediately responds with, you gotta die. So Ali radiallahu anhu approaches Talha, looks him in the eye and says, I swear by the one who holds my soul, either I will send you to Jahannam with my sword, or you will send me to Jannah with yours. Yeah, the duel is over in like a second, because just as Talha pulls out his sword, Ali radiallahu anhu is already past him. He looks down and his leg is gone. He tumbles to the floor and starts begging for his life. Ali, please, 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 we're family, you can't kill me, please! And looking at this man, his leg cut off, on the floor, begging for his life,
Your Honor, I'm sorry.
he just kind of goes, damn, this is beneath me, and he walks away. And when the companions ask him why, he replies, I just felt bad. Later on in the Battle of Uhud, a rumour spread that the Prophet ﷺ had been killed. When Ali radiallahu anh heard this news, he entered into a warrior's rage, shattering his scabbard, throwing away his shield, and charging headfirst into enemy lines, taking out at least 70 of them in a rage until he saw the Prophet ﷺ.